course, last but not least, Claudine Le Tourneur, 10 ans, explorer of civilizations and memory. She blends the precision of a researcher with the voice of a storyteller. Trained in literature, art history, and Egyptology, she has traveled the world for over 3 decades, documenting lost knowledge and timeless cultures. We were talking outside at the coffee break, and she was telling us that she's now visiting Egypt a lot in the last years. Her latest work, The Library of Alexandria, The Flames of Knowledge, is supposed to come out next year. And it's a powerful investigation into the fate of the world's most legendary library and the enduring struggle between power, memory, and truth. She's written field reports, award-winning biographies. She brings forgotten voices and vanished wisdom back to life. And today she's going to be talking to us about or the title of her talk is Egypt, Eternity in Suspension, from literary myth to lived experience. So please welcome
First of all, I want to thank you, the library and Mr. Mohammed El-Awad, and also Mark there, for their invitation to this library and to this country, especially, which for me it's a little bit my second country. I have to tell you that for now 40 years I've never stopped coming to Egypt, and I wrote so many articles, books, I did documentaries, and I have also a lot of friends here in Egypt. So it's a great honor for me to be among those honorable people and to be able to present what I think and what I feel about the different influences on literature, on French and Egyptian literature. So we French or European, we have inherited an Egypt that for centuries was a backdrop, a myth, a mirage. So today we try to approach another Egypt, an interlocutor, an Egypt that answers us, forces us to walk, to investigate, to read, and above all, to meet. So my thesis is simple. Since the 18th century, the West has projected its myth onto Egypt. Meanwhile, a modern Egyptian literature has emerged, turning the gaze around. Today, only a rational writing can approach the shifting truth of this plural land. So, first, the European gaze. How did we Europeans speak of Egypt? During the Enlightenment, Egypt becomes a reservoir of ancient wisdom, rituals, hieroglyphs, priestly philosophy. For writers, it is an Orient drawn from books rather than an experience lived in Egypt. For Voltaire, Diderot, and Mozart magic flutes, Egypt is the place of wisdom. For Montesquieu, Egypt is a model of political organization, while for Rousseau, it is the cradle of civilization. From these venerable origins arose a literary movement called Orientalism. For the 19th century writers, Egypt is a romantic and archaeological setting, combining exoticism, sensuality, and spiritual quest. Bonaparte scholars' description of Egypt revolutionized the French view of the Orient. It sparked a literary fascination among the Romantics and realist, like Flaubert, Nerval, Gautier. Traveling to this dream Orient, and Egypt in particular, becomes intellectual necessity. Their journey enriches their prose, diary, letters, travelogue. But often Egypt appears simply picturesque, with Felucca's bazaar, nice shores. Then Egypt is nothing more than a mirror where Europe contemplates its own imagination. The 20th century is time for more technical knowledge. Philosophy, archaeology, institution, museum. Academic lectures take place in university. Egypt settles in libraries filled with books, archives, inventories. A positive science, yes, but with a danger. Mistaking catalogs for knowledge, replacing the romantic cliché by the tyranny of rubrics. So today the question remains, what do we go? Do we go to Egypt to know, or simply to consume images we already carry? While Europe is fabricating its own Egypt, Egypt itself is writing back. French literature has a great influence on the 20th century's Egyptian writer, both in terms of ideas and literary forms. This transmission nurtured the Nada, a renaissance of language and literature at the turn of the 20th century, paving the way of the 20th century writers. The first great modern Arabic novel in Egypt is Zainab, written by Mohammed Ekkal in 1914. The novel marks a decisive step. It goes beyond imitation, using techniques of realism to describe rural Egypt. So Egypt is no longer an object of contemplation. It becomes the very subject of the narrative. Another great writer is Taha Hussein. With the books of the day, he invents an autobiographical prose with stark lucidity and sobriety. He recounts childhood, blindness, knowledge as a conquest, and at times he openly challenges religious institutions. Tawfiq al-Hakim, in a diary of a country persecutor, takes reality seriously, with sober precision, without unnecessary lyricism, to address justice, law, and morality at a level of ordinary lives. In this sense, the writing of Naguib Mahfouz is exemplary. I have to say that I had the great honor to interview Naguib Mahfouz twice before he died. The Nobel laureate embraces realism supported by great formal mastery, inspired by Flaubert, Balzac, Zola, and naturalism, but digested in favor of a totalitarian world that we can find in the Cairo trilogy. Families, neighborhoods, streets, political ambitions, metaphysics of fate. Then it is not a question of importing a novel. It is about inhabiting the novel from within the city, with its tempos, ironies, politics. His disciple, Gamal Gitani was one of my great friends here in Egypt for years, since he died in 2015. He modernized the form and writes under censorship. He adopts more contemporary novelistic techniques. He used humor, but he remained a writer of resistance who knew imprisonment. As Sonala Ibrahim, that I had also the great honor to interview, recently departed, was the voice of dissent, stripped of ornament, exposing lies and oppressions. Here, therefore, a geography of dissidence has emerged. Another significant, albeit fleeting, influence is the creation in 1938 by George Hennen of the Art and Freedom group that drew heavily on French surrealism to criticize colonialism, war, and social conservatism. For Hennen, literature is a weapon of war. Then the verb become a weapon. The pen, an explosion. Writing becomes survival. But of course, we must not forget the role of women, who also take up the pen to defend their ideas. Hoda Sharawi is the pioneer of this generation, inspired by feminist movement in Europe. She tirelessly campaigned for girls' education and women's rights. She's followed by Doria Shafik, a passionate activist for women's suffrage. Latifa El-Sayed combines national commitment and female liberation in an aesthetic inherited from social realist novel, inspired by Balzac, Zola, but also André Gide. With The Open Door in 1960, she offers a novel of feminine emancipation, portraying the tension between tradition and modernity. Finally, Nawar El-Salawi, that I had the great opportunity to meet and to spend one day with her, listening to her. She was both a doctor and a writer. Until her death in 2021, she was one of the most powerful voices against violence against women, inequality, and a fierce opponent of patriarchy order. She engaged an extensive dialogue with Simone de Beauvoir in Paris. Some of her essays and novels, like Woman at Point Zero in 1975, resonate with French existentialism and feminism. By strongly defending democracy, she was imprisoned by Sadat. Then we can say the literature born under constraint proves that resistance can create form. Now let me speak from my own experience as a writer, and as a writer who wrote many books on Egypt. Cairo for me is not a metaphor. It is a stratified megacity, a civilizational palimpsest, with pharaonic, Coptic, Islamic, modern, contemporary. Not liars that simply others, but time that circulates. Here, eternity in suspension is not an abstraction. It is a sensation of a present full of past. The gliding streets, the viaducts cutting through urban terrain, the markets drifting with municipal policies, and at the center, the enduring river, the Nile as an axis of continuity. Let me share with you one experience. A crossing through Zamalek at dusk. The bridge behind me rumbles. A felucca slips by almost silently. Nothing exceptional, except the quiet harmony between a millennium gesture hosting a sail and ultra-modern circulation. The contact point between duration and acceleration, for me, symbolizes suspended eternity. From that scene, I learned one thing. I cannot write anymore about Egypt. I must write with Egypt. To see is to answer for what I saw. To name is to choose precision over cliché. To describe is to render readable the links between what I see and what I risk in seeing it. I read text, consult archives, compare maps. Then I return to the field, so that knowledge is in dialogue with the voices and gestures I have encountered. As a writer, I offer 3 simple proposals. First one, decenter. Give space to Egyptian voices. Second, pluralize time. Egypt is not a museum frozen in stone, nor a pure vortex of the present. It is an interlacing of duration. And third, care for form. Form is not decoration, it's responsibility. To describe is to choose, to take side, to render a word legible. Thus, if the past is made by walking, writing Egypt today means walking with her. It means reading what she writes of herself, listening to what she says about her cities, watching what her people invent, admitting what we do not yet understand, returning, and sometimes remaining silent. My conclusion leads back to Alexandria, the site of my next book, to be published in January 2026, the Library of Alexandria, but not as a mausoleum of text, as a living experience of transmission, a place where knowledge was accumulated and lost, censored and reborn. But for me, the Library of Alexandria was in reality much more than a place of learning. It was the first network of human intelligence, a comprehensive information system where knowledge, power, and memory converged. It embodies humanity's first attempt to conceive of the world as a whole through the organization and dissemination of knowledge. To finish, let me tell you a line written from George Kennan in 1952. What matters, even in the midst of rebellion, it is to ensure the flow of ideas. What is as precious as the flow of blood, and to maintain in man the desire for new horizon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I find it hard to say anything after this 4 excellent presentations. And I think now we didn't maybe explain in the beginning that we shifted the order from what you had in the program